What's up, guys? So today we're going to talk about, here I've got the new DJI Osmo Nano and wanted to dive into it a little bit more on the couple of different video settings, primarily the stabilization, the horizon balance, and the slow motion functions. We're going to show you a couple of samples. If you've got any comments, be sure to leave them down below. Any questions you might have as well. Be sure to like and consider subscribing to our channel. Let's get into it. So for the first clip, we're going to start off with, we'll have it set to 4K resolution. Point of view is going to be standard D-warp, and we'll be in normal 10-bit color profile with the stabilization off. For this first clip, this gives you a good reference of what it looks like without stabilization on. As you can see, the color, everything is good, but you can see that every movement I take shows that the camera is moving around. Like, the video is pretty jerky. The trees on the side are moving around. Every little movement is just, this video, it just in general, without stabilization is very difficult to watch. All right, so we have, so for the stabilization setting, we have it set to its max level, which is RockSteady. The point of view is standard D-warp. And as you can see, I'm doing a running motion here, and you can already see that the video is a lot more stable and more usable. There's very little shake or jitter to it. There is a crop to the image because we have a point of view, a D-warp, standard D-warp point of view, so it crops in slightly as well. It does crop in as well slightly because of the stabilization as well. Okay, for this next clip, we still have 4K resolution. It's standard D-warp, but this time I have it set to horizon balance. We also have normal 10-bit color profile, and it's filmed in 30 frames per second. As you can see, the footage stays level when the camera tilts from side to side, giving it more of a cinematic and controlled look. It's not quite as aggressive as RockSteady when it comes to smoothing steps, but it does a great job of keeping the horizon straight. Just like before, there's a slight crop due to D-warp, but overall, it's definitely more stable shot. So here again, we've got 4K resolution, 10-bit color normal profile, 30 frames per second, but this time we have it in wide angle point of view with RockSteady on. As you can see here, my running movement is completely smoothed out. There's less of a crop compared to the standard D-warp, which means you keep more of the scene in the frame. But you may notice a bit of edge distortion towards the sides. So in this next clip, we're at 4K resolution, 30 frames per second, normal 10-bit color profile. Stabilization is RockSteady, and the point of view is ultra wide. This particular clip, or at least in this mode, it gives you the widest range of view. It's perfect for action shots, or if you want to, or for situations where you want to capture a lot more. But the trade-off is that you get more distortion and stretching towards the edges of the frame. So now in these next couple of clips, we're gonna show you what the slow motion settings are. So the first clip is the slowest option you can have, and that's at 240 frames per second at a resolution of 1080p. So it's essentially an 8 times slower than normal. The problem you have here is that you have the lowest resolution, perfect for situations if you want to capture a very fast moving object. The downside to using 240 frames per second at 1080p is that you're filming at a much lower resolution, which is 1080p. So the quality just isn't going to be as good, and it's pretty noticeable. So here we've lowered the frames per second to 120, which is essentially 4x. So it's twice as fast as the previous one. In this mode, you'll have somewhat of a cleaner image, and there's going to be less noise and artifacts. But again, you're still going to have that lower resolution of 1080p. So here we up the speed by 2 compared to before. We're filming at we've upped the resolution to 2.7K. We're at 120 frames per second. Obviously, you can see that there's a noticeable increase in the detail. Just keep in mind that when shooting in high frame rates, you'll need a lot of light to make sure that you have a clean image. So for this final clip, we've now increased our resolution to 4K, and we're going to keep it at 120 frames per second which is 2 times faster than 240 frames per second. This mode gives you the best of both worlds. The smooth slowdown effect, but with the sharpness and detail of full 4K resolution. It looks crisp, cinematic, extremely clean when you have good lighting. For the horizon balance section, in all the samples that you're about to see, I filmed in 4K, 30 frames per second, 10-bit color normal profile, and I am tilting the camera a full 90 degrees to the right. Okay, for the first video, with no stabilization on, you can see that as soon as I tilt the camera, the video tilts with it. And these are all done in standard D-warp, because for the horizon balance, the only setting you can have as far as the point of view goes is standard D-warp. For the next sample, as a test, I just wanted to see if RockSteady had any sort of horizon leveling in it. But as you can see, as soon as I tilt the camera, the video tilts as well. And finally, here I have horizon balance turned on. And as you can see, as I tilt this camera, the horizon in the video stays level, but eventually starts to tilt when I get to right about the 30-degree mark. This camera only has horizon balance. And a question a lot of people have is that, does it have horizon lock? It does not. And let me tell you the differences between the two. Horizon balance is something that'll keep the horizon steady up to a plus or minus 30 degrees before it actually starts to tilt. Whereas in horizon lock, it keeps the horizon steady for a full 360 degrees. So to clear up the confusion, this camera, the Nano, it does not, at this time at least, does not have horizon lock. It only has horizon balance. In this case, horizon balance, what it does is it keeps the horizon steady up to 30 degrees plus or minus. And then once you get past that, it'll start to tilt. But to be perfectly honest, horizon balance is something that works perfectly well for me. I don't need horizon lock because in real world situations, for me at least when I'm filming, I rarely ever tilt the camera more than 30 degrees in the plus or minus direction. So that's more than enough to me. That is more than enough to correct for any type of tilt. One thing I want to note is that in the horizon balance setting, the image does crop in the most out of all the other settings. So you will notice that your field of view is going to get smaller because it crops in quite a bit. So here are my thoughts around the stabilization, different settings. They're both good in my opinion. It's hard to discern the difference between the two. The main difference is that one will crop in a little bit more than the other. And I believe that is the horizon balance does crop in more than the RockSteady. But as far as preventing any type of shake and giving you a smooth video, they're both extremely good. The horizon balance is good for if you want to have that, if you want to keep that horizon level and you don't want it to move around as you turn the camera. That's kind of more, I think that's probably more geared towards if you're wanting to shoot videos that are just kind of static, or you don't really you're not doing much action. You're just kind of like doing a vlog, for example, or if you're filming some scenery. But if you're filming something that's more action related, it might be something that you really like. RockSteady might be better just because it gives you that kind of more of a feel that you're kind of moving with it. So if you're like, for example, if you're mountain biking down a trail, if you have the horizon balance off, it'll actually move with you as you're taking your turns and twists down the trail. Camera will kind of more naturally give you that kind of roller coaster feel. The slow motion features that we showed, we just really wanted to show you what they look like. I don't really see myself using that a whole lot, that function, but it makes more sense. They have that 1080p to slow it down to 240 frames per second, but in my opinion, you're better off just using the full resolution of 4K at 120. That to me is good enough to get you what you really need. If you really wanted to slow it down, I wouldn't really recommend using this camera because the 1080p resolution is just not good enough. As for the different point of view settings, it's nice to have the ultra wide and the wide in that they capture more of the scene that you're looking at. But again, the trade-off is that you're gonna get that kind of you're gonna get that distortion on the edges and it's gonna stretch the image, especially on the ultra wide. Again, it just depends on the type of scene that you're looking for. My personal preference is to use standard D-warp because I don't like any distortion on the edges at all. So I tend to use standard D-warp across the board on all my videos, unless I'm just doing some static shot of something and I want to capture a whole bunch of it in there. One thing I did notice that within the settings of the camera, in the pro settings, there was another setting you could change for stabilization. It had daily, sport, and anti-motion blur. I didn't research those much and I didn't go into those. So I don't know exactly what those are and what the difference is between those and the Horizon Balance and RockSteady settings are. So I just wanted to point that out. I'm not entirely sure why they have two different settings for those, but wanted to let you know that I kept all these videos at the daily setting, which is something which I guess would define as everyday video. So yeah, those are all my thoughts that I have for this camera on the stabilization settings, or some of the different video settings for this camera. By no means am I an expert at videography. I don't know all the terminology, and I'm not gonna claim to say I'm an expert. So I just wanted to share my just average experience with everyone out there. Be sure to hit that like button down below and subscribe to our channel.